Hello there. I've just been looking at the timeline for the supposed murders that Lucy Letby carried out. I've been comparing it with the Freedom of Information request from Countess of Chester Hospital. I'm not sure who actually made the request, but its number is 4568. Somebody made this request, and it's a breakdown of all the deaths over a certain period. I think it goes back to 2014, and then it goes up to 2018, so 2014 to 2018. But I'm finding some anomalies here that are a bit strange to me. And I'm carrying on with this video because what I was saying last time is that the unbelievability of Breri and Jayaram telling Rachel Aviv that there were 3 deaths in quick succession in June 2015, and in that article they tell Rachel Aviv that, oh well, there's, it can happen. It can happen like that. That the same nurse is on. There was nothing really to look at there, even though in other places they seem to be concerned. So they seem to be rewriting that script there for their interview with Rachel Aviv. And then when this 4th death comes 4 months later, it says in the article 4 months later. Is it 4 months later? I'm just looking at the timeline of. So we've got the murder of child A, 8th of June 2015, child C, 14th of June, and child D, 22nd of June. That's the 3 supposed murders. Then the next murder happens on the 23rd of October. Is that right? 23rd of October, yeah. No, sorry, 4th of August. 4th of August, child E. That's not really 4 months afterwards, is it? June, July, August, that's not even 3 months. So I'm not really sure in the Rachel Aviv article. Is that the one that's being referred to? This 4th of, and it's the early August, so it's only actually been a month and 4 days, isn't it? So in that article, Rachel Aviv is running through these murders that have happened, and she says, well, there's these 3 murders that happened, or 3 deaths, sorry. She doesn't say murder, she says 3 deaths, and then she said 4 months later this happens. But it's not 4 months, because child E is said to have been murdered on the 4th of August 2015. I don't understand that. I don't understand it. It's there's a bit of an anomaly there. But there are other anomalies that are going on here, because I'm looking at this Freedom of Information. I'll do a little bit of film later. I'll show you the Freedom of Information request. I think I can just film it or something. So it's saying here there was a murder of child E on the 4th of August 2015. But if I look at the Freedom of Information request for the breakdown of deaths in 2015, it splits them up into late fetal loss deaths, stillbirths, early neonatal, that's less than 7 days, late neonatal, that's between 7 and 28 days, and post-neonatal deaths, and then all deaths. Those are the columns. I'll take a picture of that, or a little bit of film of that later, so you can see how it looks in this Freedom of Information request. But so they've broken it down for the year of 2015. So in June 2015, there's 1 stillbirth, and there's 3 early neonatal deaths, and those are those 3 supposed murders, and that totals to 4 deaths for June 2015. When we come to August 2015, I'm expecting to see an early neonatal death here, because they say there was a murder of baby E, child E, on the 4th of August. And yet, in the Freedom of Information request, there are no deaths of early neonatal or late neonatal. All there are two. There's the number 2 in the stillbirth column. So that's an anomaly. I don't understand that. So this was received by someone and then sent around, but it was received from the hospital itself. It's their document that was sent out through their Freedom of Information request section in their hospital. Is it a mistake, or is it just what's gone on there? So just to repeat, Lucy was convicted of a murder of a baby on the 4th, baby E, on the 4th of August 2015, and yet in the Freedom of Information request it says there are no deaths of early or late neonates in August 2015. There are 2 stillbirths. So that's odd. Going back to the timeline of the supposed crimes, I'm just looking at the murders in this particular video. The next one we have, there are several supposed attempted murders in September, but the next murder is on the 23rd of October, where we are told, of child I on the 23rd of October. Now, 23rd of October, it would be 4 months from the 3 June deaths. So that is the gap. So is that the one that Rachel Aviv means when she says 4 months later? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's a mistake there, because the murder of child, well, the supposed murder of child E on the 4th of August, that's saying the baby is 7 weeks premature, and that fits with the description of the baby that Rachel Aviv makes in the article, but that's not 4 months later. That's effectively just a month and a bit later. So there's an anomaly there. Something's not right. Going back to the supposed, I keep saying the supposed murder because I don't believe there are any murders, that's why, but I'm looking through this the timeline of it's the Guardian here, what they're saying. It's just a handy way clear way to look at it, how they're listed. The murder of child I, 23rd of October 2015. So what does the Freedom of Information requests say for October 2015? Coming from Countess of Chester Hospital. Freedom of Information request 4568. So we look at October 2015, and again, when we're told, so go back, I'm just going to say, we're told that on the 23rd of October, there is a murder of child I, and yet Freedom of Information request says there are no early or late neonate deaths at all, but again, 2 stillbirths. 2 stillbirths. No early or late neonate deaths. That's another anomaly. What's gone on here? Is this Freedom of Information request completely inaccurate, or is it accurate and those deaths were recorded as stillbirth deaths? If so, why? What are the ramifications of that? What does it mean? So, what happens then? And then we go into 2016. I'm just seeing where we go here. There are further supposed attempted murders. Murder of child O and child P. So there's 2 murders, they say, in June 2016, the 23rd and 24th. Okay, so, and then we go, let's have a look at the Freedom of Information request for that. June 2016, yes, it shows there that there are 2 deaths, 2 early neonate deaths. So that's, early neonate means from delivery until 7 days old. That's what it means, early neonate. And late neonate is 7 to 28, between 7 and 28 days. I think maybe even technically, so early neonate might be 6 and under, 6 days and under, and late neonate is 7 to 28. I think that's correct. So that makes sense. But you see, we're having all these other deaths going on that don't get to be part of the charge sheet or even investigated. As far as we don't know what's going on. But one of the things that strikes me about this Freedom of Information request is that we have January 2016. Something unusual happened in January 2016, and it mirrors June 2015. In that, there are 3 early neonatal deaths in January 2016, 3 of them. There are no stillbirths, no late fetal loss, there's no late neonatal deaths, no post-neonatal deaths. The only 3 deaths are, there's 3 early neonatal deaths in January 2016. Now, none of those deaths, not one of those 3, is part of anything to do with any investigation or charge sheet in relation to Lucy Letby. But what happened in January 2016? It's a month in which, it's 1 month in which there are as many deaths as there are deaths in other whole years, in prior years. So what's going on there? Was nobody interested to find out what was going on there? There are 3 deaths in June 2015, and they begin to suspect Lucy Letby. But the 3 deaths in January 2016, which do not form part of any sort of charge sheet, they're not I mean, Evans, we're led to believe Evans looked at all these other deaths that occurred, 10 of them, or possibly 9, because I don't think he even looked at the medical notes for the August 2016 death, because I think he just, as I keep saying, well, I don't think, I'm going by his statement in some interviews, post-trial interviews, he was only interested in getting all the cases, as he calls them, up to July 2016, because Lucy's been taken off the unit by then. So he doesn't need to look at the August 2016 death. Massive red flag, of course, that he doesn't. But January 2016, 3 early neonatal deaths. None of them said to have been done by Lucy Letby, but it's a massive spike in 1 month. Anyone asking why that's occurred? Anyone interested? As I was saying a bit earlier, we're led to believe that, well, Evans tells us that these other 9/10 deaths that he looks at, he can decide that they're all explainable and expected and explainable. But I don't know, was Lucy Letby on duty for any of those 3 deaths in January 2016? Is that why they didn't want to, was she not on duty for any of them? Those 3 deaths, clearly, based on Evans's own statements in interviews, because they didn't form part of the charge sheet, he decided that they are all explainable. But it's a big spike for 1 month. As I say, it mirrors, it's the only, is it the only, apart from June 2015, it mirrors that. It's as big a spike. It's as big a spike as June 2015, where Breary decides to have an analysis of what happened there, and to look over it, and then goes to Karen Rees, or eventually goes to Karen Rees, but he sort of investigates what could have happened in June 2015 for 3 deaths in just 1 month like that. And yet it's happening in January 2016, and none of those deaths are related, obviously not related to Lucy Letby, otherwise they would have charged her with them, wouldn't they? So what did happen? Why is that spike caused? I wonder if there's anything else on this chart. At the end of the video, I'll do a little bit of film of the chart itself, so you can see what I mean. So we've got these two deaths that have been supposed murders in months in which the only deaths that we've got there are stillbirths. And then we've got this massive anomaly of January 2016, in which we've got 3 deaths happening. And you would have thought that would have got people very, very concerned about, there's another 3 deaths in 1 month, and yet have they just been discounted because Lucy Letby's not on duty for those? Or they just couldn't pin them on, or maybe she was on duty for 1, but they couldn't pin it on her. Maybe they wanted to. I don't know. There's something not right here. I'm assuming this is the correct information because it's come from the hospital. It's a Freedom of Information request from the Countess of Chester Hospital. And it breaks it up into months, across 2014, 2016. So, yeah, I'm just trying to look back to... Yeah, here we are, you see. If you go back to 2014, the total of early neonatal and late neonatal deaths is 3 across the whole year from, well, it's just got here from Feb. I don't know why they missed out January, just maybe somebody requested it from February for some reason. So 11 months. 11 months. February 14 to December 14. There are 3 deaths on the unit. Then the only other 2 times this happens is in June 2015, where Lucy Letby is said to have murdered those 3 babies. But the first that was for a whole year for 2014. But then you've got 3 in 1 month, June 2015. Lucy said to have murdered those 3 babies. But then you've got January 2016 with 3 deaths in 1 month again. And nobody's asking anything about that. Nobody seems concerned about that. And what happened there? Massive spike. Just to reiterate, January 2016, none of these deaths blamed on Lucy Letby. You've got as many deaths in 1 month as you have in the whole of 2014. It's very odd, isn't it? It's very odd, as well as those other anomalies to do with just having stillbirths there and no recorded deaths of early neonates for 2 supposed murders. You don't see them, they're just stillbirths. Were they recorded as stillbirths? Does that make a difference? What difference does it make? I'm not sure what this means. I'm going to discuss it with people I'm in a group with. But I thought it was striking. It's striking particularly as Jayaram and Breary are backfilling and storytelling and telling Rachel of Eve about how their concerns were growing and growing and growing and growing throughout 2015. And it's all eyes on Lucy, and Lucy's always on when there's a death. Lucy's always on when there's a death. And yet, we've got January 2016, 3 deaths in 1 month. Are they thinking that those are Lucy's? But none of them clearly are. But why have they occurred in that month? It's just so striking. I've never thought. I've been looking at this chart for 8-9 months. It's never really struck me as hard that 3 deaths in that 1 month. So something's going on there in terms of the unit, in terms of a spike in sepsis deaths, because of all the other reasons I've been talking about for ages, based on Dr. Scott McLachlan's work and other people's work, to say that the unit was in chaos. This 3 deaths in January 2016 is not that long after Alison Timmis, a consultant, writes to Tony Chambers, the chief executive, to say that everything is in chaos, nobody's listening to us. The result of this is going to be deaths of children, or the breakdown, or an emotional breakdown of our staff. And it's not safe. That's what she says to him as well. It's not safe. We're overloaded. We can't do this. Nobody's listening. It's chaos. And she's writing that, I think, in December 2015. In the real latter part of 2015. And then January, 3 deaths in 1 month. None of those deaths attributed to Lucy Letby. What are they attributed to? What is that spike attributed to? Absolutely nothing. No one, not the hospital, not the defence, nobody. Nobody's made a case for explaining. That they explained June 2015 3 deaths with saying it's 3 murders, because they can pin those on Lucy. But 3 deaths in January 2016, they don't seem to want to tell a story about that or get somebody on the hook for those. So why do they do it for the June 2015 and not January 2016? Because Evans knows the ones he's not got to pick. He mustn't pick any of those January ones. He must pick the June ones as being unexplained and unexpected and unexplained, even though they are explainable for many medical reasons and other reasons to do with the unit as a whole and medical errors, etc. But Evans must jettison, in terms of any kind of investigation, he must say that 3 deaths in June, a big spike, again comparing it, just to remind you, comparing it to the whole of 2014, we've got 2 months in 2015 in which, in each of those months, there are as many deaths as in the whole of 2014. For the 3 in June, it leads to 3 murder convictions. For the 3 in January 2016, it leads to nothing. Or might it have led to something? Might it have led to medical negligence cases? And this investigation and bogus investigation of Lucy Letby just put all those on ice and just stopped it all happening. But something was going on in January 2016. That we don't hear Breary or Jayaram or anyone else saying, oh my God, we had 3 deaths in January 2016. We thought they must have been all Lucy as well. They don't say that, do they? Because perhaps she wasn't on duty for them. Oh, but it would be even weird if she was on duty for them, but they don't say anything. They in their storytelling, they don't say, oh, when it came to January 2016, by the end of that month, there was another 3 deaths. It replicated this high, massive spike that we saw in June 2015, and all eyes are on Lucy. So what's going on in January 2016? What are their viewpoints about that month? They don't want to mention it. It's loud by the absence of their mentioning it, isn't it? It's loud by the fact they don't ever say anything about it. Nobody says anything about this month. Nobody says anything about January 2016. Evans knows which ones he's got to pick. He knows which ones he's got to not pick. And he mustn't go anywhere near January 2016. Even though it's 3 deaths in 1 month. Can't go anywhere near it. He's just got to say in a blanket way, no, they're explainable. He looks at the 3 deaths in January 2016. He looks at those and he goes, explainable, 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 gone. He looks at the 3 deaths in June 2015 and he goes, intended harm, intended harm, intended harm. I think he's been, as I've said so many times, he's been directed to do that. He knows the ones he's got to choose. That's the setup. Because he's had prior information and prior knowledge about the ones that they want, that are required to be deemed to be unexpected and unexplained and therefore intended harm. And he's got inside information about the ones that he is meant to find no problem with. And he's not meant to find a problem with any of those January 2016 deaths. Presumably because Lucy Letby wasn't on duty or on shift for any of those deaths. I don't know if there's anything else in here. There's nothing striking me at the moment, but very odd those other 2, the murders. Just go over that again. Where are we? These 2 supposed murders. August is the August. I'll just repeat that again. There is a supposed, Lucy's been convicted of it, a murder on the 4th of August 2015 on the Freedom of Information request. There are no deaths showing in early neonatals or late neonatal. There are only stillbirths showing in that month of August. And then we come to the murder of child I, supposed murder of child I in October 2015. Again, I'll double check it. Well, I've checked it loads of times. Again, no early neonatal deaths from the Freedom of Information request. Only stillbirths. Only stillbirths recorded. I'm not sure what the ramifications of this is. It's just another extreme oddity, really. I think I'll leave it there and I'll just do a little, I've got to stop the camera a minute and then do a little bit of film of the document so you can actually see the Freedom of Information request page. I'll just film the computer. Hello again. So here we have it. This is it. It starts up here. Actually, it breaks it down into. It does it in whole years there, but I didn't want the whole years. I wanted it split up into months. Well, not that I want it. It's just that it's a document. It shows it into whole years, but we're not so much interested in that. So there's that's how it's set out. Late fetal loss, stillbirth, early neonatal, 0 to 6 days, late neonatal, 7 to 28 days, post-neonatal is post-28 days, and then all deaths. So that's 2014, and as you can see there, I can use my little cursor thing, there are 1, 2, 3 deaths in that unit. There's some stillbirths there. There are 3 deaths for the whole of the year. I don't know where January is. They seem to just have 11 months here. But anyway, pretty much the whole of the year. I'm assuming that January didn't have any. I just don't know why there's not a January there. That's 2014, so that's the year before all these murders and attempted murders were meant to have happened. We come in now to 2015. You can see Countess of Chester Hospital monthly summary. It's from them. It's nothing. I haven't typed this up. It's from them. Sorry, it's a bit of light shining. That's my fairy lights. So we've got the whole of 2015 here. We've got, there's June, and there's the 3 deaths, June 2015. There's the 3 deaths there, early neonatal deaths. They're the 3 murders, that supposed murders that Lucy did. Then we've got a death in July. That death in July, oh, that's another thing, see, that's something I haven't mentioned. That death in July 2015, the one where I'm moving my cursor there, is another death that Lucy hasn't been looked at for or convicted for, or it wasn't on the charge sheet. But it's odd, isn't it? Going back to the Rachel Aviv article, we have Jayaram and Breri saying with these 3 deaths that it was kind of explainable, it was understandable, nothing to worry about. If a nurse is on for 3, it can happen sometimes, etc., etc. That's what they tell her. And apparently this 4-month later thing, which I'm not sure is correct. I don't know if that's a mistake in the New Yorker article, or there's some mix-up that between which baby that Rachel Aviv's talking about. Because I think the one she's talking about, the very, very, very premature baby, actually dies in August, which is not 4 months later. It's only like a month and a week or so later. But anyway, back to July 2015. This death here, where my cursor is there, is an early neonatal death, not attributed to Lucy Letby. So Breri and Jayaram aren't wondering who's on duty for that, are they? It's only when there's another death. Now, which one it is it the August one or is it the October one? I don't know, because it's a bit confusing in the New Yorker article now, because she's saying it's a 4 month later, and I'm not sure that amount of time is correct that she says, because there is a death in August, but as you can see, it's 0, 0 there. Those columns are early neonatal and late neonatal deaths. Go back to it. It's 0, 0 for August. 4th of August that a murder is meant to have happened. There are no deaths showing, but there are 2 stillbirths showing. Then, again in October, there was meant to be, well, there was said to be a murder as well. Again, we've got a 0 there and a 0 there for early and late neonatal deaths. We've got 2 stillbirths showing there. We've got no deaths showing in early or late neonatal in October 2015. Then, in November, we've got a death, a late neonatal death in November 2015. This is a death as well that Lucy wasn't it wasn't on the charge sheet, it wasn't put her way, as it were. She wasn't deemed responsible for this death. November 2015, late neonatal death. Is it because she wasn't on duty? They just, so Evans and Co said, well, we don't need to look at that one because Lucy wasn't on duty for that. That's my belief. They've constructed it by, in conjunction with each other, in conspiring with each other, breathing together, conspiring with each other to decide and to ensure that Evans doesn't go anywhere near and start saying there are intended harm for deaths where Lucy isn't on duty. So presumably this November 2015 is one that they cannot pin on Lucy Letby. It's the only one in that month, that death. But what is the cause of that death? It's obviously one of the ones that Evans says is explainable. He can explain everything, you see. Evans can explain. He can explain the deaths, and he can say which ones are intended harm. He can do it with perfect accuracy, and he can do it better than the pathologist can. The pathologist obviously doesn't know what they're doing, even though they actually did the post-mortems, and Evans just working from a bunch of shabby notes, as I keep saying. Then in December 2015, do we have any alleged murders in December 2015? No, we don't. We don't. So there's another death, an early neonatal death in December 2015. Is Jairam and Breary saying, God, is this one to do with Lucy? No, because she's not on duty. And precisely just because she's not on duty. And Evans decides that that's an explainable one as well, so it's nothing that we need to look at. He just discounts that one, that death. But here's the big one. Here's the big one in terms of, look at this spike here. It's only been replicated by June 2015 up there. January 2016, 3 deaths. Just to remind you, that's as many deaths as there were in the whole of 2014 in 1 month. January 2016, 3, where my cursor is, I don't know if you can see it, 3 early neonatal deaths, none of them attributed to Lucy Letby. All 3 of them deemed, amazingly, just by chance, or is it by design, I wonder, by Evans as explainable. They're all explainable. 3 deaths in 1 month, a massive anomaly. 3 deaths, as many deaths as in a whole year of 2014, all simply explainable by Evans and co. and the consultants. Nothing to do with Lucy Letby though. But what caused that jump? What caused it? So if we're looking at those 2 months together, we've got 4 in 2 months. We've got 4 in 2 months. If anything, the hot area. Oh, there's another death. There's another early neonatal death in February 2016, which is not attributed, and 1 in March. Look at this. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 between December and March. That's the most concentrated period, actually. That seems to be the most concentrated period. Yes, there's the 3 in June, but look at this. 1, 3, 1, 1. 6 in 1, 2, 3, in 4 months. 6 in 4 months. 6 deaths in 4 months, and none of them attributed to Lucy Letby. But what is causing these deaths? What is causing 6 deaths in 4 months, where you've only got 3 deaths in the whole of 2014? And none of those deaths, none of these deaths, these 6 from December 2015. Oh, there's 1 in November as well, so we've got to count that. Sorry. It says 1, yeah, 1, 2, the 7 from November 2015. There are 1, 2, 3 in January 2016, 1 each in Feb and March 2016. 4, that's 3, 5, 6, 7 deaths in 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 deaths in 5 months. 7 deaths in 5 months. More than twice the amount of the deaths of the whole year of 2014. But just in 5 months, and none of those deaths attributed to Lucy Letby. So what was causing all those deaths? What is causing that spike in that concentrated period? Anything to do with sepsis? Anything to do with the sewage sloshing around? The pathogens? The absolute chaotic situation that Alison Timmis, the consultant, says it makes for a very unsafe unit, when she writes her email in December 2015 to say that nobody's listening to us, there's going to be deaths of children and breakdown of the staff because they're overwhelmed. Do you see what I'm saying? And then we're moving through, and then the only other 2. Well, I'm seeing things I've not quite seen before here. Not in the same way. They're making a different picture for me. So we've got the 2 June deaths here, which are said to be murders by Lucy Letby, June 2016. Lucy Letby is then taken off the ward in July. I'm trying to remember the date of that. I'm just looking through the timeline of the we come to, okay, murder of child O, 23rd of June 2016, murder of child P, 24th of June 2016. That's it. No more murders. So we'll go back to this Freedom of Information request. This 2 here, June 2016, are the murders that Lucy is said to have done. But there are 2 further deaths after she's left. Or has she left? I don't know. I can't remember offhand when in July she's left. But there is a death in July of an... no, sorry, that's not... That's a stillbirth. Because I can't see the columns. Yeah, okay. Scrub that. In July 2016, there is a stillbirth. Okay. But this is the one I'm always concerned about as well. August 2016. Because Lucy Letby has left the unit, I don't think Evans even bothers to look at the notes for that death, because I've heard him on several interviews saying that he asks for the cases going up to July 2016. Why did you do that? Massive red flag, because Lucy Letby is off the unit in July, by the end of July 2016, so he doesn't have to look at the death in August 2016, which shows, it demonstrates, it reveals that he's focused on Lucy Letby, even though he pretends not to know her name. Why is he asking? Why is he asking? Why is he not asking for the whole of 2016? Why wouldn't he want to look at the death in August 2016? Because he, the police and the consultants all have one person in mind. And they know she's contained. They know she's doing admin duties. They don't need to look at the August 2016 death. They're not interested in deaths per se. They're only interested in deaths they can pin on Lucy Letby. They're not interested in deaths per se. They're not interested in January 2016, that massive spike here. And the massive spike across these months. March, February, January, December and November. From November 2015 to March 2016, the biggest concentrated month-on-month series of deaths. None of those 7 deaths attributed to Lucy Letby, none of them on the charge sheet. I'll bring it to a close now. I hope this comes out very clear enough that you can see. I'll just go back to show you the top, how it's that's how it's listed. That's how it's split up. Anyway, thank you. Yeah, I've never really looked at this chart in relation to the charges and the convictions in this particular way before. Thanks very much. All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye. Just a quick addendum here, or an extra little bit addendum. Just looking at the years, how it's split up into the years here. 2015, early neonatal deaths, 8, and 1 late neonatal death, so that's 9. Our understanding has always been like 17 deaths across these 2 years. So you've got 8 and 1, that's 9. In 2016, we've got 7, and then 7 early neonatal, and 1 late neonatal. That totals 17. That's the 17 deaths. Lucy's been convicted of 7 murders, so we have the 10 left over that were other deaths that weren't looked at. But as that chart below shows, when it's split up into months, 2 of the murders do not have entries for early neonatal deaths or late neonatal deaths. They only have entries in the stillbirths. Just go over it again. Go to the month by month. It was the August one. It was the August one. That's the column for early neonatal, late neonatal, 0s there, and there's 2 stillbirths. But that's been charged as a murder. So the reality is, in those 2 years, we're looking at 19 deaths, not 17. And this is something that I've not seen anywhere else. It's 19 deaths. And again in October there is no record for an early or a late neonatal death, but there is just stillbirths. So these murders have been recorded as stillbirths. So that's just a really unusual thing. I just don't understand it. So there are 17 other deaths, plus these 2 which have been deemed as murders, but they're recorded as stillbirths. But if they obviously weren't stillbirths, they obviously weren't, because they're recorded as babies that are in incubators and that were murdered by Lucy Letby. So that takes that total of deaths across 2015 and 2016 up to 19 deaths. Up to 19 and not 17, which we had thought before. So there's 2015, 8 and 1, 7 and 1, 15, that's 17. But there are 2 other murders here, alleged, supposed murders. I don't believe there are any murders, of course, in that 12 figure. There are 2. They're saying they're stillbirths, but they've been turned into murder convictions. So it's very odd. Be interested to see what people think about that. Very odd indeed. Thank you again, and all the best. Bye-bye. Good night. Hello. I had to do one final bit because the conclusion of this it's just hit me anew, really. And I wanted to put this across, is that looking at that chart, it's suggesting that across 2015 and 2016, there are not 17 deaths, there are 19 deaths. And they've recorded 2 of those deaths as stillbirths. And 2 of those stillbirth deaths, they've ended up being prosecuted as murders. I'm not saying they were stillbirths, but they've recorded them as that. But they should have been in the early neonatal column. But what that means is there are 19 deaths across, there are 19 deaths. Let me have a look at this. Have I still got it open? Yes. I'm looking at early 2015 now. Okay. There's one death in January 2015. Well, okay, that's another one. I mean, that's, yeah. So I should have picked that up as well. There's another death in January. There's January 2015 death that again Evans says is explainable. But we're looking at, let's just say we take the whole of 2015 and 2016, we thought we were looking at 17 deaths across those 2 full years, the full years. But we're actually, I think, looking at 19 deaths. But just wanted to, so before that, the June 2015, when there are 3 deaths, that Lucy's blamed for all 3 of them in one go. There's only 1 death in that year prior to that. There's only 1 death, and that's in January 2015. I mean, I say there's only 1 death, but because this is what's blowing my mind with this now, because they've actually counted 2 deaths which were early neonatal deaths, and they've put them in the stillbirths column. How do we know that some of these other stillbirths weren't actual deaths? Because it's in their interest to minimize the deaths, isn't it? I mean, is that partly why they've done it? Put them in the stillbirth column. It's very strange. 2015, in terms of stillbirths, when we're looking at year on year, 2015 is the highest at 12 stillbirths. The year before that there were 9. I say there were 9 and there were 12, but if they're playing fast and loose, with putting an early neonate. We've seen that they've done it here with, with two of them that have ended up being charged as murders. They couldn't be stillbirths, could they? So they've done it twice. Who's to say they've not done it more times? Who's to say they've not done it more times? 2014 there were 9, 2013 there were 8 stillbirths. 2016 it goes right down to 2. Then 2017, Lucy's long gone. She's on admin duties. She's meant to be coming back in 2017, but that's when the police start. The investigation starts then, and she's meant to be coming back, but she stops, isn't she? And then she's eventually she stays working on the admin until 2018, and then she's arrested and then suspended. But then it zooms up to 11 stillbirths in 2017. Lucy's not there. But how many of those are potentially early neonatal deaths, wrongly categorised as stillbirths? We've seen 2 examples where they've done it already. In cases that ended up, in instances that have ended up being charged as murders. This is extraordinary, I think. Just for completeness, in 2018, there are 6 stillbirths, so it goes back down again. The 2 biggest years are 2015 and 2017. But it seems to be the case that there, and it shouldn't be possible to do this, but there was a report in a newspaper about this, about early neonatal death being recharacterised as stillbirths. It came up on Twitter. Richard Gill was mentioning this as a thing, but I think we've actually found the 2 that they've definitely done it to in this case, and they've actually been 2 of the supposed murders they've done it with. But where I was going with this, the reason I was doing this extra little bit is that instead of 17, there are 19 deaths across 2015 and 2016, the 2 years under scrutiny that end up being the trial, 2015, 2016. 19 deaths, out of which Lucy's been charged with 7 murders. That leaves 12. So that's even a smaller proportion, as it were, of the overall number. There's like 12 other deaths to explain. There's 12 other deaths. I.e. there's a serial killer there, quote unquote. I don't believe that, obviously. There's a serial killer, and there's this massive spike of 12 deaths over these 2 years. There's the chaos that Alison Timmis talks about, and the serial killer. So there's the chaos causing all these deaths, this extra spike, and the serial killer. Or might it not be that it's the chaos? Might it not be that it's the lack of safety? Might it not be that it is the problems with the hospital wastewater and the pathogens flying all over the shop and never getting properly cleaned, and the chronic understaffing and the lack of a safe unit, as Alison Timmis calls it. She calls it unsafe. It's going to be unsafe. She writes this to the chief executive, Tony Chambers. It's going to be it's unsafe. No one's listening to us. The result is going to be the deaths of children. The result, a premonition. Or even not so much a premonition, what she's already experienced. And she said, no one's listening to us. And that goes backwards in time as well. She's at the end of her tether as a consultant. She's not one of the Gang of 4. She's not one of them. She's realising what's going wrong in that unit. She's got the honesty to flag it up to management. Breary and Jayaram aren't doing that. They're looking for They're looking for a murderer to blame. They're making a murderer. Alison Timmis is saying, I can see this is chaos all around here. Staff are so overstretched they're going to have breakdowns. We're taking too many high acuity babies. We can't handle it. We can't do it. It's unsafe, she says. It's unsafe. And she says the result of all this will be the deaths of children. Not through a serial killer. but through a unit that's overwhelmed with many kind of doctors, understaffed, incredibly understaffed in terms of doctors and nurses at different times, with lots of medical errors going on, very bad attitudes from some of these doctors, and lots of errors, lots of mistakes, lots of failures going on, as we keep hearing, in terms of intubation. Doctors, spending like 6 or 7 attempts at it, when 3 would be the maximum you'd ever want to try to do it safely. A doctor comes from the level 3 unit and intubates the baby straight away, or fits a catheter straight away, the venous, the line, or all these sorts of things. I'm getting really tired now, but what I'm saying, there's just a catalogue of the medical errors there. Plus a unit that's just crawling with pathogens. And staff getting ill and coming into work and sneezing and putting their hands right into the incubator. Nobody saying anything, nobody stopping it, but the mum noticing it and saying, well, what the hell's going on there? And the doctor's not even remarking on it, just saying, oh, you're full of cold, are you? Yeah. And putting their hands in the incubator of a baby that's 27 weeks old, that's already had an infection and a brain bleed, and has been to a level 3 unit, and then unfortunately has been sent back to CoCH, and unfortunately dies there. So 19 deaths. So you can see, what are these 12 other deaths? They're not. It's no longer 10 other deaths. It's 12. What explains that massive spike in and of itself? Had none of the deaths happened that Lucy was wrongly and falsely blamed for, we've still got 12 deaths. We've still got this massive spike to explain. Something's obviously going wrong there, on top of their story of a serial killer. Or is it that all the deaths are related to the thing that's going wrong, related to the chaos? I'm repeating myself now. I think it's obvious that is what is the case. And they just cherry-picked the 7 deaths and they turned them into murders to try to stop this story getting any further, about 19 deaths across 2 years. About a unit in chaos with 19 deaths in 2 years. Possibly more than 19. I'm talking about early and late neonatal death. I say possibly more because if they'd done it with 2 early neonatal deaths and put them into the stillbirth column, how do we know they haven't done it with more? Could there be more than 20? We know there are 19 now, not 17, 19. Could there be more? There could. If they'd done it with 2, why wouldn't they do it with more? They were fighting. They realised that things were absolutely breaking down. Take away the 7 cases where Lucy's been blamed for murdering, or it's been made up that she's murdered these babies. Still got 12 deaths to explain. Possibly more. And that's the motivation to put those deaths, start putting those deaths into. They've given something away here with the freedom of information. They've given it away what they were doing, and they knew that things were so serious over these 2 years. They had to start massaging the figures and putting some early neonatal deaths, which were a result of possibly medical errors and infection. Sepsis, all kinds of things like that, a mixture of all that on a chaotic ward, understaffed. And they've started shifting a few into the stillbirth column to try to get some kind of control over it, but it's still huge. So then their next gambit is to invent a serial killer story. Yeah, that's it. I think there are probably more than 19 deaths over those 2 years. And how can we find that out now? 2015, 12. What a jump, isn't it? 2015, 12 stillbirths. We know 2 of those stillbirths were actually early neonatal deaths. We know 2 of them were. Maybe more were. Because look, in 2016 goes right down to 2. 2017 goes up to 11. Were there more early neonatal deaths? Recategorised as stillbirths there? Incorrectly, wrongly, in order to make it look as though all the deaths had gone away in 2017? Were there actually more deaths there, but they'd said there were stillbirths? We know they've done it to 2 now. I think this is really significant. I think this is really, really significant because it shows their working. It shows their finessing and their massaging of these figures and categorising them in ways that they shouldn't be categorised. And it's been exposed. It's necessarily been exposed by making up the serial killer story, by saying there's a murder in August and a murder in October, but they don't record any deaths. They just record stillbirths. I'll leave it there. I think it's significant. I do. Anyway, good night again. Take care. Bye-bye.